AI is touching every other aspect of our life, so how can publishing be behind? So, very quickly, may I invite on stage the esteemed panelists as well as the moderator for this session. Please, may I invite amidst your applause Mr. Ankit Sani, partner, Ajay Sani and Associates. As we all know him very well, he is an esteemed intellectual property and technology counsel who's based out of New Delhi. We also welcome in our midst Mr. Utpal Chakrabarti, AI expert and Chief Technology Officer at Intel TI Technologies. Let's welcome him with a round of applause. He's a distinguished expert in AI, data science, and quantum science, is the CTO at the Intel TI Technologies, and notably, he's a Gartner Ambassador 2023, AI Global Ambassador, and top 20 AI influencers. So it's a pleasure to have you here with us. We shall be joined in this session by Mr. Amit Rajput, Executive Director and Innovation Leader, PwC India. He'll be joining us shortly. Meanwhile, he's a Digital Product and Transformation Leader for PwC India. In this role, he leads innovation and tech-led disruption, along with advising companies and startups on innovative ways to harness multiple technologies towards solving problems and driving revenue growth. Additionally, he's also responsible for driving business across the tech, media, and telecom sectors, and also leads PwC's alliance with Meta in India. He will be joining us in a short while. I take the pleasure of inviting on stage Mr. Shresht Srivastav, AVP Tech Mahindra. Let's give him a warm welcome. Shresht is an accomplished AVP at Tech Mahindra's Garage Ventures. He's also driving pioneering AI and Web 3.0 product development with a decade-long career. He excels in strategic planning, execution, and operational excellence. And he also facilitated the growth for top 30 accounts, spearheaded the innovative AI-driven Talex Talent Exchange, and integrated AI into the company's domains. So I welcome you warmly. While we are waiting for one of our speakers to join, may I request you to kindly take the session forward, and meanwhile, we'll welcome him as he comes.
Thank you, Mandeep. And what is often referred to as pretty much the graveyard session for the day, because it's already a few hours away from lunch, but it is still about 45 minutes ahead of the tea break. What I will try to do is, with the esteemed panel that we have here, very diverse and experienced panel, we'll try to make the session as interactive and as interesting as possible. While I wait for Amit, Amit will add a lot of different perspectives into the discussion. His interaction and the fact that he leads the relationship of PwC India with Meta will also throw some light into what the industry, specifically Meta, is thinking. All of us are very well aware of what Meta is. I think almost all of us are on the ecosystem. We are very much, in the Prime Minister's words, digital nagariks. And therefore, this concerns each one of us equally, as it does Meta as the platform operator. So much of the prelude work, thankfully, was done by the speakers of the previous session. Yogesh, I thank you for doing the background work and raising some of the relevant points and questions which would allow us to step into the conversation directly with Utpal and Shresh to begin with. So I think at this stage, the best way to put it is that the cat is out of the bag. AI has already become part of our lives in a much quicker way, a much faster, and much larger way than a lot of people would have imagined. Let's say even as far back as the onset of the pandemic in 2020-21. Once we came out of it, ChatGPT and various other things were already on the back of our tongue, on our mobile phones, and people were already talking about it. So in terms of your experience, I'll begin first with Utpal. How do you think AI has already influenced the publishing and the content landscape in terms of creation, distribution, and reader engagement? And what are some of the key success stories that you could tell our audience today where AI has significantly enhanced the efficiency or effectiveness of the publishing processes or the quality of the content? Utpal.
Thank you. I think, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me here. So, before we talk about publishing, I think I'll talk for 2 minutes about what is generative AI, because from the previous discussion in the panel, what I found is, I think probably there is a little bit disconnect that what we think about generative AI and what actually it is. So generative AI or the large language models, LLMs, that we have seen today. So language is just one part. Definitely generative AI has the capability to generate fresh and new contents. And I will define what is fresh and new content, whether it is text or image or video or audio or maybe anything. So generative AI is a large neural network. And I will talk a little bit about neural network also so that we can set the context if you allow me to do that. Yeah. So neural network is essentially inspired from human brain, how human brain works. So in an adult human brain, there are around 100 billion neurons. And these neurons are like kind of a special type of cell. How it is special? Number one, these are a little bit bigger in size than normal brain cells. Also, it is minus 50 microvolt potentially charged than the surrounding. Okay? And there is another very amazing feature of this particular cells is they work on a threshold kind of a mechanism. Threshold. And I'll tell you what is that threshold. So normally what happens, if I look at an object or a person, the light rays reflecting from that person comes to my eyes, then it got inverted in the retina, and it directly falls into the visual cortex. So we are now talking about only the visual system. I think other sensory systems are also working in the same manner, but let's talk about, because this is easier. Now in the visual cortex, light rays are being converted into electrical signals. And this electrical signals starts falling into the different layers of neuron. Okay? And when this electrical signals falls into a single neuron, what happens? A phenomena starts happening, which is very similar to photosynthesis. Here it is protein synthesis. So what happens when this protein synthesis starts, automatically the potential difference within the neuron again starts increasing. And it increases to a level where it fires the electrical signal to the next neuron through something called synapse. This is the wire-like structure which is connecting the neurons. Now what happens? This strong signals coming from an object crosses millions of layers of neurons and goes to a layer wherein the decision has been made. Okay, for example, in this case, what happens if a child looks at an elephant for the first time? Okay, the same phenomena happens and goes back, and an elastic image of that elephant is been built into the child's mind, into the brain, right? And there are plasticity and all other things. I'm not going into that. But at this point of time, the child cannot recognize what exactly it is. It is the elastic image. Now somebody has to tell him that this is an elephant. When he says this is an elephant, at that point of time, this elastic image is actually tagged here. And from next time onwards, he can recognize it is an elephant kind of a thing. So now this is the visual thing that happens within this brain. Now, if we can just replicate the same thing into semiconductor, right, in a programmatic manner, and if we can build those neurons programmatically, and also we can have those threshold mechanisms wherein like the signals which are strong enough will cross that threshold and go to the next level. I think we have been able to do that. right? And this is called, these threshold functions are called essentially the activation functions. And now, think of if I can build a neuron that is probably millions of layers, okay, and millions of neurons in a row, and if I can train that neuron similarly, what has happened to our brain, with a huge amount of data. So for example, GPT 3.5 was trained with 175 billion parameters. And GPT-4 has been trained with 1.7 trillion parameters. So just to give you an analogy, it is almost all the data available in the public internet. So probably all the books that you have published and are available in the internet, all the wiki articles, because these are the most authentic articles, all the research papers of the universities, all the social media conversations that you have done with your friend or somebody, everything has gone into that particular model, right? So now it is a super intelligent model. Only thing is basically now you need to, as a human, because this is an age of human and machine partnership. Now you should know how to interact with the machine. Yeah. So now if you know how exactly to ask your question or pose your question to that particular model, it can answer you almost everything. So many people sitting here probably will be a little bit frustrated that, oh, I have asked something and it is giving me some answer something. So probably my answer would be, you don't know how to ask the question to a machine. Because till now, the machine cannot read your mind. And this art or technique of asking the right question in a right way to a machine so that you get the right desired output is called, a very hot field today, prompt engineering. Okay, so if you know prompt engineering, how to prompt a model, a generative model, or a large language model, and for that matter, any generative model, okay, then definitely it is going to give you the right answer. And I have tried myself the same thing, okay, in different ways. So now coming to this, I think probably the generative part is clear. So it is not copying and pasting from somewhere. It is essentially, it can generate the fresh content. So a generative model, if it is trained with Ramayana or Mahabharata, it can understand all the characters. It can understand the relationship among the characters. It can understand the plot of the story, okay? And then you ask anything. It is like a human, almost like a human. Okay, so I think that would be my answer. I think a little bit long answer, but I thought just to set the context. Yeah.
Thank you so much for those very interesting perspectives and for explaining to most of us, at least myself, who, at least I didn't have so much clarity as to the similarities of, how artificial neurons work in pretty much, at least conceptually, the same manner as how the neurons in the brain work. But that gets me back to the first point where we started from. And perhaps I could, ask Amit, who joined us a bit late. But initially, what we were talking about, Amit, was, we are in 2023. The cat is already out of the bag. How do you think AI is already influencing the publishing or the content landscape? And what are some of the key success stories, if you can recall any at the moment, or if there are any to your knowledge, where AI has significantly enhanced the efficiency, effectiveness, or the quality of content and publishing?
Thanks, Ankit. And before I respond, apologies for being late. I think I missed a good part of the session. So let's not focus on artificial intelligence for a minute. Let's focus on the industry we're dealing with. In any sort of content industry, there is content creation or aggregation. There is content treatment, which is production fundamentally, content dissemination, and content monetization. And if we take a step back again and think, how would we want to use technology in each of these pieces? Let's first look at content creation. So in content creation, and today we are, if you look at evolution of artificial intelligence, it started from analysis of data, then it went on to speech and text recognition. Now it has come to a point which dear sir was talking about, is mastery of language, where it can articulate. So using understanding of content for content creation is industrializing what you want to do. It is a servant at your disposal. Bloomberg, if I'm not wrong, is using AI to create content which is reporting on stock trends, which is data. You're analyzing data, you're creating language to generate stories at a factory scale to report stock trends and make some predictions around that. Similarly, I think Forbes is using it for business trends. Some other companies doing it for, I think New York Times, is for sports reporting. So content generation is happening, which is industrial, which is real time, and which still uses the creativity of the human behind the machine. Then you talk about content aggregation. In the creator economy, let's take a simile. Bollywood produces, say, 1,000 movies in a year. YouTube produces 1,000 million hours of content more rapidly. So it's the economy of the creator. AI is enabling all of us to create content in a micro or an aggregated manner and make it available for people to consume. So content monetization will also get impacted. But more importantly, it is the creator which is coming to the main fold, and by discovering that content aggregation is possible for the publisher. It's a value add for the publisher. Now we come at content processing. Any content which is available to you needs to be copywritten, needs to be clean, language has to be enhanced, graphics have to be created on the fly. Even book covers need to be created. Today, machine can read through all that content and create summaries, create synopsis, create recommendations, create book covers on the fly. So this is the support in production, if you will. Then comes content dissemination. To sell a book today, you don't necessarily have to print it on paper. You can e-print it. You can sell portions of the book. You can sell snippets of the book. Even so more, you can sell the soft copy of the book to train a model, which in the opinion of my friend here, can converse with you. So dissemination is becoming easier in support of the creator. Then monetization. In my personal capacity, I'm working with a company that is working on sending small snippets of relevant content. So if I have my preferences marked out, the application will present my relevant content to me, and to read that content, I need to pay 20 paisa per piece of content. That is enhancing the reach of the publisher to monetize content more. So, it's impacting the spectrum, and it is just the beginning. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And in fact, it throws open so many more challenges. And two takeaways that I have been able to latch on, and probably I will use to create the next question for Shresht. Shresht, Tech Mahindra has been instrumental, and you're working with as being somebody who's a leader in emerging technology in that aspect and that business of Tech Mahindra. You've been working with several government businesses, government departments, streamlining processes, adding the capabilities of emerging technology. Today we are sitting and discussing artificial intelligence. Two things that I drew, two takeaways from what Amit and Utpal said are as follows. One, from Utpal's question, he says, look, what the AI does, you shouldn't really see it or picture it something as simple as it copying, right? So he started off very beautifully by explaining how in the brain the neurons create an image of what a person perceives. Similarly, there's an image of or a memory of what the AI tool is processed, what data it has been trained on, which it creates, and based on that, what output it gives may not necessarily be, or at least when we take the example of popular tools like ChatGPT, etc., it isn't verbatim or even the same idea or just a mere spin-off or a rewrite of what some other piece of literature is. In that context, you see, we are sitting here with the publishing industry. Where do you think the challenge lies? Because the number one question that publishers want to ask today is that, should we embrace AI as a tool to move up the value chain, or should we be afraid of AI that it is going to essentially make us run for our money? And in the previous section to what Yogesh said, very apt, very relevant, eventually, does it mean in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years with the federation and the publishing industry, are publishers going to become a hybrid of technology companies or AI companies and publishing companies, or are these two fields going to remain distinct? So where should a line be drawn, if any? What are the points of caution here?
So, great question. I'll just quickly build upon what Amit said and what Utpalji said, and just try and marry the two together to answer what Ankit has asked, right? Now, if you look at it, technology at the end of the day is a tool, okay? When we look at any problem, the first thought process that comes to us isn't, how am I going to use AI to solve this problem? The first thought is always going to be, what is the solution to this problem? And can I use any of the available technologies to just reach there faster? So now if I look at the value chain that Amit talked about in his previous answer, the role of AI in all those different processes can be made such that it doesn't essentially replace human beings. It works as an enabler to human beings. So for example, let's say one of the big things that any publishing house has to do is marketing, right? Why would you want to focus some amount of energy on repetitive tasks in anything when you have a tool which can do that for you? Essentially, what you are trying to do with artificial intelligence is replace those repetitive tasks. And I'm not talking about generative AI right now, I'm talking about any application of artificial intelligence, right? You replace those repetitive tasks with a tool which is going to solve that and do that faster for you. I'm sure all of you understand that in today's businesses, there is always going to be a cost pressure, right? So if you can free up cost, which is being spent on repetitive tasks, that's when you are utilizing artificial intelligence to its correct and true potential. Now when it comes to, oh, should I be scared that it will take away my job tomorrow, right? If your job is doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again, then you should be worried. But if your job has any amount of creativity in it, wherein you are responsible for, let's say, identifying the tone of the author, or you yourself are the author who's creating something new and something unique, or let's say you are a marketing professional who's thinking of a brand new ad campaign, right? If your job is any of these things where even a hint of creativity is required, you are safe, but at the same time you now have tools which takes away all the monotony that you had to go through. So essentially the debate isn't about, in my eyes, it's not about whether you are looking at something which is going to take over your role. It is about, are you going to adopt something which will increase your efficiency manifold, take away all the boring things that you have to do at work, and give you more time to be more creative, more time to be more innovative in the practices that you do. So that's where I think, Ankit, the real line to be drawn is. But yeah, if your job is to do the same thing over and over and over again, then yeah, I might be slightly concerned at this point of time, and it may be a good idea to start looking at upskilling.
So from this, thank you so much, Resh. I think the next obvious question that comes and is often asked to us lawyers on the legal side, and one of the objectives of having sessions like these in a conference like this is also that we have tech experts like yourselves on one side, we have the industry stakeholders on the other end, and we have lawyers and legal people like myself who try to bring in that angle. Now, when you examine copyright as a concept, see, for us lawyers, it's very simple. The act, the law says, if there is something that somebody else has created, if you're copying and reproducing it, so obviously copying means it has to be not just read or processed, it has to be reproduced also somewhere. What is the nature of copying that takes place? If I ask a chat GPT or a more sophisticated, more professional tool to write an outline of my next book on a particular subject, it is, I understand, trained on, like Utpalji put it, for instance, chat GPT 3.5 is trained on 175 billion pieces of literature, of work. Where exactly is the copying happening? Is the data being retained anywhere? Because if it is from a legal perspective, that's a big red flag. And what it simply means is that anything that flows out, no matter how much different the output is, it is a result of somebody initially copying somebody else's book and having trained their AI tool on that literature whose copyright belongs to them. So text and data mining, and to what extent text and data mining constitutes an infringement of copyright, is my next question. And perhaps since you spoke about it, Utpalji, you would be best suited to continue what you mentioned in terms of whether it is copied or not copied in the first instance.
Yeah, so I think answer is no. It has not copied. But already there are some concerns raised by some artists because the pattern is copied. Data is not copied, but the pattern is being recognized. So suppose a model is being trained with my articles. So I am also a blogger. I do a lot of blogging. So it will understand my style. Okay? And if you tell that model to generate another blog, what it is going to do is it is going to copy my style. How I write, how I do an opening in my article, okay? How my middle section of the article or the blog used to be. How do I do the closing of the article? Also, to a great extent, it can also understand how I connect to the audience through my article. Okay, so this is called pattern. And pattern recognition is one of the major things that AI can do, right? So this is the reason many artists, essentially, they have raised a concern that some of the models that are coming up, mainly for generating arts and all, they are copying their style. But to answer your question, the data is not copied. So how it happens is internally. So it is a data map, right? So suppose a dictionary. This dictionary, Oxford Dictionary, is having all words, right? But these words alone doesn't have any kind of meaning, right? If we cannot draw a map between these words or among these words. So ultimately a neural network, what it does is it creates a relationship between that. So I will tell you how it happens. And this is a very interesting revolutionary paper. And because of that only, this generative AI or the chat GPT is very, very popular. So it knows in a particular sentence, when it starts forming the sentence, it of course knows what is the last word. Okay, so suppose I am at this particular word right now, it can also predict in this particular context of the sentence what could be the next word. Okay, this is a revolutionary thing, right? Knowing what is the last word is very easy, right? It was not easy when it was processing that particular word, right? So each time it is taking a challenge. So right now it is in this particular word. Now it will look at the context of the previous words and probably on the previous sentences also, and it can predict the next word what is going to come, right? And this particular nature of this neural network called the transformer neural network is a revolutionary thing in the world of AI, okay? And this has been built by some of the researchers of University of Toronto and some of the researchers of Google. Now, this alone doesn't solve all the problem. Now, GPT-4, 1.7 trillion parameters are there, okay? And the understanding of that. Now, I am sitting at Delhi in my laptop from some IP address, firing a query, okay, for some information, searching that 175 billion parameters or 1.7 trillion parameters in GPT-4, it is not so easy. So then they have come up with a technique that is called self-attention technique or the attention model. So this is also hard up ChatGPT. This is essentially they have implemented. So now this particular model, this is also a neural network. It knows to answer a particular query which is coming up, out of this 1.7 trillion parameters, where I should keep the attention, where my attention should go. And that's the reason you can see in few seconds, whatever you are asking. So it's a what do you call it? It's a general purpose model, right? It has been trained with history, geography, science, maths, physics, quantum physics, everything, right? But how it can answer so quickly? So that is the technique that is called the attention model or the self-attention model. So nothing is copied, but only the pattern is been copied or inherited to answer precisely.
So I'll just add a few bits to what Utpalji is responding to in Ankit's original question. See, regulation always follows innovation. If something is innovated today, regulating that will happen later. So some recent occurrences, there was a comic book created which was part, so the script was human written, but part was sketched by AI called Midjourney. They filed for a copyright on that and they were refused by the court. They were refused by the court because the content basis which the new content was created was copyrighted. So the next version of copyright laws which are evolving today, and Ankit, your expertise there, are allowing a content creator to give access of that content for training a model or not. So if I have written a book, I would have in the next version of privacy and data laws, the freedom to let this content be used for training a model or not be used for training a model. And that is where the revolution and differentiation would evolve. And as I said, regulation always follows innovation, so we're waiting for that to happen.
Thank you, Amit and Utpalji. One question comes to my mind. You see, from a legal perspective, I thought it would be good to clarify the Indian law puts or answers this question in a rather simple manner. Sometimes simple is good because it provides a direct answer. Sometimes simple is too simple and it leaves a lot of questions unanswered. Fortunately, unfortunately, the last amendment that happened in the context of giving recognition to something that was created with the assistance of a computer, that was the word used back then because this amendment was inserted in 1994. The law was amended only very briefly, and one part of the law, and those of you all who during your day-to-day jobs do have the experience of going through the Copyright Act, I would draw your attention to section 2D and specifically the definition of author. So you see in 2D, which defines author, clause 6 was inserted as part of this 1994, I beg your pardon, 1994 amendment, which said that for computer-generated works, it is the person who causes the work to be generated who can call himself the author. Now this policy that the government of India adopted in 1994 could be correct. There are a number of counter debates or perspectives that people have put by saying that why should the person who caused the work to be generated be allowed to claim authorship. And then authorship is very closely associated with ownership depending on what your relation with the publisher is. You could be the publisher, you could be under a work for hire with the publisher. You could eventually go on to claim ownership and economic rights in what is generated by a computer. So to Shresht, for instance, my question would be that from a legal perspective, you see, and from the perspective of considering a moral or an ethical dilemma, is it correct to say that a person who causes the work to be generated, causes could be, for instance, simply the person who was operating ChatGPT at the relevant point in time, that they prompted, as Utpalji mentioned, these days we have prompt engineers. So if he prompted and the output that was generated going simply by the definition which is contained in Indian law today, it would be the prompter who would have the right to claim authorship over that. So while at least this simplistic recognition or definition solves arguably one problem, that in India computer generated or AI generated works are protected. But what remains is whether a person should be entitled to claim themselves as the author of that. And just to quickly supplement that question, with another aspect, one way to see it is, Amit spoke about training data or deciding or withdrawing the prerogative to let your book be trained or be exposed to an AI, and therefore an AI eventually learning from what is contained, even if it's just the styles. And as Utpalji put it, that no data is being really copied or stored anywhere. There's only a mind map or an idea map that is being created. So what follows is, assuming, sometimes I think of it this way, assuming I was a painter in Paris, or I was a writer who grew up in, Oxford. Every day I would walk, I would go to libraries, there's no restriction on books. One can pick up a book, one doesn't need a license to pick up a printed copy of a book, whether it's in a bookstore and read for some time, or it's in a library, sit and read for a few hours. So my style of, eventually if I end up being an author, my style of writing will cumulatively be influenced by all the various literature or literary works that I have been trained in. If I was born and brought up in Oxford and I was reading a lot of Shakespearean style of literature, my own writing would have laces, traces, or influences of Shakespearean styles of writing. Would that infringe somebody's copyright, assuming Shakespeare's copyright was still valid today, which it isn't because 120 years, blah, 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 since his death. But the point being, when we deep dive into moral and ethical issues, what is the right way to solve this dilemma, or what are the right perspectives according to you?
So, very interestingly, there was somebody decided to train a GPT model on the works of various artists of the Renaissance period. And what they did was mainly Leonardo's work, Leonardo da Vinci's work. They trained a model again and again on it. And obviously today, if you get hold of an original Da Vinci, it is priceless. But when they generated this, they not only studied the way he used to write notes, but the strokes, the topography of where his drawings fell more and the pencil stroke fell less, and so on and so forth. And they created something brand new out of it. And they sent it out to market. Let's see how much this fetches. And the fact that it was trained, it wasn't on Da Vinci, it was on Monet. The fact that that Monet painting, an original Monet painting today is worth millions of dollars, this one was not even able to raise $500,000. So the question was that while you have trained a language model, the exact way the original painter would have done it, the first part is the market doesn't see it that way. At the end of the day, they still feel that somewhere the fact that it is not an original Monet, even though it has been trained and the prompts were done in the exact same order and everything was followed to the dot, it's still not the original work. So ethically, I am no authority on ethics, right? In my mind though, where I would say that I wouldn't say that that's an original Monet. I wouldn't give that credit to Monet. I would give that credit to uh, the prompt engineer who wrote the exact things to get that to draw something like that. But at the same time, because the prior art used to exist in the form of those so many Monets which are painted, that's where you could always say, you know, you always give credits. You can still give a credit out and say that, yeah, this has been based on the work of that. Because today when I'm sitting here and I am talking to you and I'm sharing my original thoughts with you, my original thoughts is based on a language which I learned in school, which was developed by, you know, people far before us. I don't have to keep citing that, oh, you know, I learned this from here and here, and therefore then I went to kindergarten in this school, and then I went here, and therefore I'm able to give you my thoughts today, right? But at the same time, maybe because this chat GPT or this artificial intelligence layer or wave is so new that it seems like we have to acknowledge the difference right now, but somewhere, like I had said earlier, when it becomes run of the mill in terms of operations, I think we would have evolved, and like Amit had said, we'll reach a point where regulation would have stepped in and we would have reached a stage where we would say that, you know, credit to this, or say that, you know, the author of this book is not really a human being, it's artificial intelligence. As long as you're giving that credit and saying that human generated or non-human generated and giving credits where it is non-human generated, I think you're okay.
I think I'll add something on a lighter note. So I run an innovation lab at my workplace, and one of the young kids, they developed an app where you could convert any song sung by any singer to song by another singer. So you could have a Kishore Kumar song heard by the machine and sung by, say, you know, Arijit Singh for that matter. Different era, different genre. That has no value per se. The program has a value, but the content created has no value. So for a content to be valuable, copyrightable, it has to be irreplaceable and unique. And that is where the differentiation of creativity and the regular lies.
I think from this another question arises, different aspect of ethics and morality, which is, like Shresh put it, attribution. So one question that we frequently hear and we heard the entertainment industry, for instance, which is another big content creator like the publishing industry, say that, you know, in Lakshmikant Pyarelal times, there used to be an orchestra. And to orchestrate a song literally meant that the music producer had to be present in a large hall, large enough for an orchestra to fit, and for it to be recorded live rather than in layers as it is done today on various software and then superimposed as layers, you know, and you know, the tabla guy can be sitting in California and the sitar guy could be sitting in front, and still the song that gets produced turns out to be as if everybody was present at the same time, all in harmony and synchronization. So the advent of technology did not make musicians redundant. Everybody still enjoys music of every kind. There is still going to be a very large, if I may add, category of people who would appreciate classic human-made, you know, music like the Lakshmikant Pyarelal kind of music, and equal number of people who would appreciate the more electronic kind of music. So I think the good news is that it will probably not, at least what the panel is saying today is, it will probably not drive authors or make them run for their jobs, but the right approach could be to move up the value chain by adopting, embracing artificial intelligence as a tool that would enhance various aspects of your writing, whether it is grammar or it is the tone, tenor, or it is checking for plagiarism or various other things enhancing, right? So that's one aspect. But another important aspect, and question to you, Amit, as PwC's innovation leader and as an important entity in the market today that engages with several different industries, government departments, the other use of AI is for any industry, including the publishing industry, to see how trends are evolving. are there tools out there? Has technology or AI technology evolved to the point? Are there solutions that are publishers sitting here? And accessible solutions, mind you, because there are publishers from all kinds of sizes. There are large businesses, small businesses. So accessible solutions regarding how a business could see, trends regarding which book is sold the most, which book has most number of returns, or which book contains or is demanded in a particular season. When December comes, then let's say this edition on mathematics or these things, are in most amount of demand. So to improve business prospects and enhance business, efficiency, how can AI be used? Are there any such solutions that you can talk about and recommend to the industry here?
So I'll share what I've seen in the market. Not necessarily the standpoint of my employer, speaking personal capacity, but I'll share what I've seen in the market. So there is a huge amount of data analysis which is possible in real time, which will tell you, given the broader change in society today, going through a recession or going through an upbeat government or whatever that might be, what would be the possible content, movies, songs that people would lean towards? Because the public consciousness always leans in majority of directions. One can also determine, basis the recent trends of a particular author, the plot of the story, where something would go. I'll take two examples, not really print media, but publishing in general. So the way we consume or select movies on an OTT channel, something like a Netflix and the same likes, determines what we see next, because the tags which are embedded in the content tell the publisher, this is the type of a plot, this is the hero, this is the kind of fight sequence or comedy sequence that this particular audience likes. That content, automatically the rating where the content acquisition is happening goes up, and that is specifically presented to you. That is what I would call mass customization of content. Another side, and this is something that we had created in-house, we created a headband which would read your brain waves. We took an eyeball tracker which will tell you where you're seeing on a screen. And then we ran a sequence of advertisement for a crowd of 15 people to see them and just observe. So depending on how your brain is reacting to the content, and depending on where you're looking on a screen, you could chop off irrelevant or not so interesting pieces from that advertisement and save millions of dollars in advertising money. That is all publishing content, and that is all analysis of data.
Just to add on, there is another, now I'll take another aspect of the value chain. Sometimes in my various interactions with startups, some phenomenal solutions in terms of marketing are coming up using artificial intelligence. For example, your entire digital media marketing campaign managers can use AI today to not just create campaigns, which are again prompt driven, but they can also create the images for you, write the copies out for you, then at the same time do an analysis on which ads did better, which ads did not so well, so on and so forth. Now what I'm trying to say is that there is a use case for this which can be picked up from this industry and put to any other industry. So there are solutions like this which exist in the market. It's just about who wants to go and get to it first.
And you would have seen the Shah Rukh Khan ad where he's speaking for a million shopkeepers at the same time, customized for each shop. Of course, he has not recorded that million snips. It's being created based on his speaking style, his voice.
The Dairy Milk ad, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if people have seen it. You should see it. They did something very phenomenal. What they did was, when you were seeing that ad, they show Shah Rukh Khan as if he's doing a regular Cadbury I think ad, and whichever is the nearest store to you, he will say that, oh, you know what, there is a gift available at that store right next to you, which was amazing, in terms of technology.
From there, Utpalji, thank you, Shresht and Amit, for your views. Utpalji, specifically, if we take the conversation forward, in a rapidly evolving digital landscape, with your experience and insights, where and how do you think publishers can stay adaptable and innovative and integrate AI as a first step? Many of us have not even taken that. How do we integrate as a first step AI solutions into our existing workflows?
On the publishing side, probably I don't have much experience because see normally, but what I can see is, so mostly when you see the AI use cases, which can be, or the problem statements that can be converted into a use case and then an application, very few are surface. Most of them are basically under the carpet, you can say, right? So I think in the publishing industry also, there will be many use cases. Generative AI is one because it is very hot topic today. But there could be many areas. So number one, faster content creation. You can create content in a much faster manner. So as a blogger, I used to spend at least 4 or 5 nights to write a blog. Because before writing a blog, essentially you need to gather the information, right? Because any writer probably will know the beginning section is like any blog, the beginning section is how you address your audience and how to generate that interest of the audience so that audience reads the entire blog, right? So that is the beginning 1 or 2 paragraph, the opening of the blog. The middle section is completely what kind of information that you are giving. So that is content or information driven. And the last section is the closing section, right? Now for the middle section, you have to spend hours, probably sometimes days, to come up with the information and that to up-to-date information. And this portion of the work can be easily uploaded to a generative AI because it can gather the information from various sources. I mean, it has already been trained, so not various sources. It already knows all those information, okay? And it can bring all those information to you. So faster content creation is one thing. Second thing, probably the reviewing task that most of the publishers are doing, right? So author gives the work and then you do reviewing. That reviewing can be super fast if you can actually use a good prompt engineering technique. Of course, it cannot be done just copying and pasting into the front end of your chat GPT. You have to do it from the back end. So there are mechanisms wherein you can call the APIs, application programming interfaces of the chat GPT, okay? And you can do some parameter tuning there, how you want the content to be, and it can actually do all kind of reviewing work for you. Okay, so that is number 2. Number 3 is, I think, recommendation he talked about, and everybody knows, the recommendation engines. So first of all, that intelligence, gathering that intelligence, like what your readers are looking for, what kind of a content they are liking, at what point of time. There could be many, many parameters, right? Humanly, analyzing those parameters and coming up with a decision, ultimately these parameters helps us to come up with a decision, right? It is not so possible, right? And I can take an example here for banking, if you allow me. Yeah. So in banking, what we do, because I'm a banker, essentially, I mean, coming from banking industry. So in banking, there is something called credit risk assessment. That means before giving any credit to any individual, okay, it could be an individual, it could be a enterprise or anything, we analyze what could be the risks associated with giving that credit. Now to doing so, we analyze various parameters. First of all, demographic parameter of that individual. So we know where he lives, okay? Whether it's rented house, own house, how many years, which particular locality, everything. We also analyze his financial parameters. What is his income? Is it only salary, or he is doing some business also? Okay, only one earning member, multiple earning member, everything. Okay, whether he is in a permanent job or a contractual job, whether in a big company or in a small company, everything. And also, what we do is also consider the transactional parameters. Okay, whether he is a defaulter, how many transactions he has made in his credit card, in his debit card, what are the types of the transactions. Because today, if you look at in this dynamics, the customer profiling is very, 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 very critical. Because the customer profiling changes almost every hour, if not minute. Right now, probably you are a very good customer. The next hour, probably you are a defaulter. Right? So now, humanly doing or putting some kind of a formula or putting some kind of a logic for doing this is nearly impossible. Here, what we require is kind of an adaptive algorithm, which can adapt to the situation, which can understand these dynamics, because dynamics is changing. It is not static, right? And then, looking at all the parameters, it can tell with a certain amount of confidence that whether this person is going to be a defaulter or not. Okay? And that's where it's a complete paradigm shift to microfinancing. Today, the banks are ready to give the loans to any individual in the road. Everybody is a customer. Everybody is a potential, customer for a bank. Because now they don't require your documents. They can do the behavioral analytics of that individual and identify whether this customer is a loyal customer, it will be proved to be a loyal customer for me, or he is going to be a defaulter. So I think to answer what you say, there are many, many use cases. It could be even optimizing your logistic, right? So logistics, you send your books to different, this kind of, you can do optimization there. There could be a lot of cost saving that can be done into your entire this thing, because I don't know publishing entirely, right? But there could be many huge amount of cost saving that you can do. You can take data-driven decisions. Many a times, it is like your experience or guesswork you do, right? All of us used to do that. Now you can do a data-driven decisions. Your data will talk about the truth. And this is the power of the analytics that you can do. And this analytics can range from anything to anywhere. It's not only sales. It is not only your procurement or anything, any field you can do that. So I think opportunities are enormous. And most of the times, as I said, the use cases will be not surface. Okay, it will be very difficult to understand the use cases. So mostly what people think, any problem which is very, very difficult, okay, is a right use case for artificial intelligence. That may not be the case. Even the use cases you don't know, okay? Once an AI expert comes, he explores your entire landscape, he can guide you. Hey guys, here are the opportunities for cost saving, here are the opportunities for generating more revenue, here are opportunities for bringing efficiency, here are opportunities to bring the customer satisfaction. So these are the main hits, right? Every business is looking for, right? So, yeah, so opportunities are enormous.
Thank you so much for your very interesting perspective. Since we are almost out of time, I would, at this stage, hope, before we finally break for tea, if anybody has any questions or perspectives to add, the panel is here. We'd be very happy to answer. Anyone?
So I'm going to keep it short because I've been told also to keep it short, and it's just at the end of the session I understand that people want to break. But I just have an observation. My observation is that from a publishing standpoint, and for the publishers, I mean, a gist of what the panel said today, I just want to, be a sounding board to that. I feel that authorship, which is human authorship, can never be taken away because at the end of the day, even generative AI is finally human authorship. So basically, yes, it can be seen in parallel. And what I feel is that maybe, going down the line, if I take the example of, let's say, a Stan Lee who has made a Spider-Man or probably a character, maybe generative AI can make 20 more characters like that. But at the end of the day, Stan Lee is going to remain a Stan Lee because he can think of new things. And I think that is the brilliance of a human mind. So, I mean, I just want to understand that is this how you see generative AI, or is it really that generative AI, because there is a lot of talk outside in, I don't know, in India, yes, a few articles here then there, but is it really that one as a publisher or an author should really be afraid of generative AI moving forward, that, they're going to take away our jobs? Or I know you've already spoken about that, but I personally feel that as an author, that is never going to happen.
Thank you so much for sharing those perspectives. I think since the answer is pretty much, or I assume is going to be very open-ended, we will take it offline. If there are any other quick questions for the panel? Sir.
Hypothetical question, because I think a comment on his question also, or his views also, basically AI will work on the data, right? And data keeps on generating to a greatest extent these days. Like people in the publishing industry cannot judge the amount of data that you guys may be handling, right? Or aspire to handle. So AI will work on its own to a great degree. My hypothetical question or scenario that I want to say is, like, for example, Amazon is right now also working on AI, okay? The searches or anything. So will one AI compete with another AI, hypothetically? That's the question, because it's beyond what we think. And and it's not just a program, it's an adaptive program, right? What I understand by reading about it. So different companies may have different AI programs and they keep on competing with each other. And who chooses what is a question that, or whether normal publishing would be there, or there would be something beyond it that I think we would need to think about.
Anyone from the panel would like to?
I'll make a quick comment and then we can take it on. So, fundamentally, all big forces in the world are dual use. Fire is dual use, force is dual use. Anything philosophically speaking is dual use. Now, depending on what a particular AI is being used for, we can use the word compete. It naturally doesn't lend itself to the conversation. It is collaborate or co-opt is what I see happening, because the universe is so huge and the developments in AI are so recent. The idea of they feeding off each other is more likely than otherwise. I'll take an example. What ChatGPT has achieved, and they spend a lot of money in bringing it to what it is today, is because it has been done once. Replication of that is becoming cheaper and easier and faster and lighter. What it will do is it will become more specific to some use cases, which will then collaborate with each other. You need a room cleaner which understands the room better than anything else. You need a refrigerator which knows your dietary restrictions. And you need a TV that shows you what you specifically want. So because the areas are so diverse, cooperation is more likely. And the challenges facing humankind are so severe today, starting with climate, to societal problems, to economic issues, to employment, and so on and so forth. I think you need more forces collaborating than competing.
Absolutely.
More perspectives, Shresh? Okay. With that, I think we've pretty much crossed our limit, and we thank you once again for your kind patience and for bearing with us through the session. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for all those who had questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for a session which was really, really enlightening. And I'm sure you all enjoyed that discussion. It was a different perspective, though, very, very closely related to publishing. So thank you all once again. And to do the honors of presenting a memento as a token of our appreciation and thanks, as well as the book of 75 years of book publishing in India, may I invite on stage Shri Ramesh K. Mittal, President FIP. We start by thanking Mr. Ankit Sahni, partner Ajay Sahni and Associates. We thank Mr. Utpal Chakrabarti, AI expert and Chief Technology Officer at Intel TI Technologies. Our thanks to Mr. Amit Rajput, Executive Director and Innovation Leader, PwC India. We thank Mr. Shresht Srivastav, AVP Tech Mahindra. And with that, ladies, we come to the end of this session, which was entitled Impact of Artificial Intelligence in Publishing. Thank you, Mr. Mittal, for joining us on stage to do the honors.